I think we definitely can't disrespect how good this Australian team is. I didn't say, and I 100% believe this, I didn't say Uzi couldn't make any more runs. I'm not surprised he made a double 100. He's an amazing player. It was more timing, 38 years of age, have that fairy tale finish in front of your family and friends. And also, as I've said before, I think we just have to, we can't afford to lose 2 or 3 of these amazing players all in one go, because I experienced that. I don't know the answer to that question. If there's no Nathan Lyon, I don't know who our front line spinner would be.
Annabel Sutherland, the first
superstar.
woman to get a century at the MCG. Beth Mooney quickly followed suit.
Yeah. Put my name right beside those two. They are 2 superstars. Well, Beth Mooney, I think she's the first Australian woman to score 100 in all 3 formats.
Yep.
Annabel Sutherland is a superstar already. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not the next Australian captain, she will be the one after. Hello guys, welcome back to Beyond 23 Cricket Podcast. Michael Clark and alongside me, Georgie Parker. Georgie, thank you for your time once again.
What a week of cricket as an Australian fan.
Cricket frenzy. We've got women's Ashes, Aussies on fire. Men's absolutely destroying Sri Lanka in the first test match.
Yeah.
And then we've got India v England in the T20 series. Hasn't that been, well, let's just say it's been front page news with a number of things that have happened throughout that series, but some unbelievable cricket. And I tell you the one thing, because I feel like it might have been 2 years ago, but I think even 12 months ago, there were so many questions around where does Test cricket sit in this country?
And where does it sit?
I don't think it's ever been stronger. Our women's team are unbelievable in all 3 formats and have been for a long time, but they continue to show that. People are turning up to watch the girls. The men's, the summer against India here, I think the Australian fans showed very clearly where they see Test cricket in this country. And the way we are playing in our own backyard and now overseas, I don't know if Australian cricket, both men's and women's, has been in safer hands, and particularly in Test cricket than where it is now.
I can't wait for the Test Championships, so another surface to show that this isn't a fluke, us playing against a lower ranked side. But when you're number 1 in the world, every team's a lower ranked side. Let's remember that. But they're going to go over there and play against South Africa on another surface, and hopefully again show that this can be all around the world on any surface.
Well, I think that's the conversation around the best cricket teams in the world. What justifies that word, being the greatest or being the best of your era? And I think it's about winning in all conditions. And that's the part. I know there's always conversation around playing 11s, who gets selected, who doesn't. And I'm sure we'll get into that in regard to the Australian 11 that beat Sri Lanka in these first tests, because there's a lot of talk around, how old this Australian team is. But the most important point is we are winning in all conditions. And I think that's something that can't be forgotten. It is probably underrated. And like you say, after this series, we go to England to play against South Africa in different conditions. I'm super confident Australia will win that test match as well.
And they'll be super confident no matter who goes on that park. I think that's what's so great about this side, the depth that we have in the side. We had a lot of questions about this Australian side after that really big first loss against India in the India series. Are they now all behind us? That was just a bad game after not playing test for a while?
Well, things move quickly, don't they? And winning hides a lot of things. But I think what it shows is how confident this Australian squad is. I think it shows that our first-class system is still very strong as well. So whoever comes in and gets an opportunity, Josh Inglis, he was in the squad the whole summer but never got a game, waited for his opportunity, has been around the game for long enough, has been in and out of the shortest formats, gets a chance and makes 100 on debut. Like, how special is that? He had to wait all summer to get his crack, and then he finally does and makes 100. So it shows that our domestic system is working.
Paul McSweeney sitting there going, I have to play against Bumrah for my opening, and you're playing against Sri Lanka. But this Sri Lankan side, it's not as bad on paper as maybe you'd think. They beat England at home at the Oval quite comprehensively. Yep. They beat New Zealand twice at Galle. So is there as big a difference, it looks like on paper, as this score maybe reflects? Or do you think this is just a matter of Australia being so dominant at the moment?
Sri Lanka's record this year has been very good.
Right.
Their record in Galle, as you said, is exceptional. And I don't know if they plan to play 2 test matches there against Australia for that reason, but they don't lose too often there. I think we definitely can't disrespect how good this Australian team is.
Yeah.
I think that has to be first and foremost. They need to be praised. Their captain's not even there.
Yeah.
Paddy Cummins is not there. Steve Smith took over the captaincy, led from the front, winning the toss played a part. The wicket was very flat, great for batting on day one, but you still got to do it.
Yeah.
They maximised their conditions with the bat, put enough runs on the board. They made changes to their batting order. Travis Head played exactly how we expected him to. Usman Khawaja goes on and makes a double 100, his highest score.
Yeah.
And again, I come out and said very openly on this podcast that I saw Sydney as an opportunity, the last test against India, for Uzi on his home ground, being a Sydney boy, win the series against India, to announce his retirement, to play his last game in Sydney in front of his family, in front of his friends. I do, because I didn't say, and I 100% believe this, I didn't say Uzi couldn't make any more runs.
Particularly not in the subcontinent. We know he can score.
Where he's done very well. I'm not surprised he made a double 100. He's an amazing player. It was more timing, 38 years of age, have that fairy tale finish in front of your family and friends. And also, as I've said before, I think we just have to, we can't afford to lose 2 or 3 of these amazing players all in one go, because I experienced that. We went from number 1 in the world that we'd been there for, 15 years. We lost McGrath, Warne and Lanka in one test match. Within 12 months, we went to number 5 in the world. I don't want to see Australian cricket go through that process again. So I think it's got to be quite strategic how these guys go. And the other thing, Uzi batted like an absolute genius.
Yeah.
Super happy for him. But on the other hand, I feel for Sam Konstas as well, because that would have been a good test match for him. The wicket was great for batting. Best time to bat in Sri Lanka, but in the subcontinent, he's opening the batting. It could have been another test match he got under his belt before the Ashes next summer. I sort of saw these 2 test matches in Sri Lanka, and then I think there's 3 in West Indies, particularly those 5 test matches, as good ones for someone like Sam to get under his belt before the pressure of an Ashes series back here in Australia. Understand winning has to be the number 1 focus. Don't get me wrong. But I still think we could have won that test and would have won that test if Sam played. But when you look at results, again, if Uzi wants to play and he's still making runs, I do agree that age is just a number. But the reality is there's a reason not many players have ever played post 40 years of age.
And they're not getting better after 35. You're rarely getting better on the other side of that. You might be able to continue that form, but you're not really improving.
No. And you're more likely to get found out against better opposition. So no disrespect to Sri Lanka, but their performance was poor. Their catching was dreadful. I thought the way they started after losing the toss, it was like they were so disappointed they lost the toss. I think Travis Head got 13 on his own off the first over. Like, it looked like their head was down before a ball was bowled.
Were you surprised that Head opened?
It
makes sense. He's so good at batting in, again, those conditions.
But if you ask any batsman, everyone would like to bat 5 in Australia where it's seaming, or 6, and then in the subcontinent we all want to open. Travis Head will make runs no matter where he bats.
Yeah.
I think he's playing that well at the moment.
Will he win the Allen Border?
I was surprised. You know what? I haven't thought about who will win the Allen Border medal. Paddy Cummins had it as an awesome summer.
For me, it's between Cummins or Head.
I think one of those two. I think one of those two will win the Allen Border medal.
Do you think that batting's looked upon a little bit more fondly in medal counts like that?
I think it depends. The voting from the players, I think when I think back to sitting in that change room, I think the conversation generally was around who you think had the most impact on helping you win the game. So if a bowler, like, there's always the comparison, is 5 wickets worth 100 runs? I don't think it's about that. I don't think that's a fair comparable, because I think it depends. In Australia at the moment, if you make 100 on these wickets, it's like taking 8 wickets as a fast bowler. Nathan Lyon really wasn't required this summer against India, yet over there in the subcontinent, very different. So I don't know. I think one of those 2 players probably deserves to win the AB medal. But I thought they might have stuck with Sam. I really did, and kept Travis Head in the middle order. They make that change, but good on Josh Inglis as well. Happy for him.
It gave another opportunity to a person that they obviously want to see batting, playing international cricket.
Yeah.
And you spoke about moving, like too many people retiring at once. And someone who we don't want to see retire now, but Nathan Lyon, we have to think in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years, given this type of player he is, will be leaving that team. Who do you think his understudy is? Because it was Murphy, you thought, and now Kuhnemann's put his hand up and said, I can get 9 wickets against an international side.
I think at the moment Kuhnemann's a very good second spinner for this Australian team. You've got Nathan Lyon, right arm off spin, Kuhnemann left arm orthodox, left arm off spin, but then you've also got some part-time. You've got Travis Head, offie. You've got Marnus Labuschagne who can bowl some leg spin as well. So I think Kuhnemann is a really good option as the second spinner. I don't know.
Is it conditions based?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. If there's no Nathan Lyon, I don't know who our front line spinner would be. I think obviously Murphy, Kuhnemann are the two fighting for that position. But then with Nathan Lyon, if he plays for another couple of years, who knows who else is coming through? Is there a wrist spinner on their way? Like, look at the women's team.
Yeah.
To be able to bowl out the back of the hand, it just reminds me of when we had Warney in the Australian team. I just think if you can bowl out the back of the hand, it's such a strike weapon.
Yeah.
So many more variables off the pitch, in the air, so many different deliveries, but easier said than done. So it's going to be interesting to see what way Australia goes when Nathan Lyon does decide to hang his boots up.
Yeah, and so we spoke about Uzi at the top. Steve Smith, though, seems to be back into form.
Well and truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you called that. You said that you're going to see
I think it's only a matter of time for Smitty. When you watch someone like that bat and you can see they've got that sharpness in their mind, their intent in their movement, I think it's a matter of time. I think there's a lot of talk now about Marnus as well.
Well, that's the question. Is he... How on notice is he?
I think Marnus, if he can relax his mind, at the moment he seems quite tentative, especially at the start of his innings. And I think it's because you're looking for runs as a batsman when you're not getting the number that gives you that security around, I'm going to be picked in the next game. I think that's when you start batting and looking for runs, which is very different to when you watch Steve Smith walk out to bat now. He's enjoying batting. So if he has to block for 5 overs, it doesn't bother him. He's happy to do that until he gets a ball to score. When you're not in that mindset, you're looking to like, how do I get a run? How do I get to 5? How do I get to 10? You're counting numbers all the time. So if Marnus can relax his mind, I have no doubt he still has a lot of runs left in him. I think he's a wonderful player.
How do you relax your mind, though?
You got to back your preparation and you got to back your success that you've had over a certain amount of time. And it's hard to do when you're under pressure. And that's what they say. You know, there's not too many, certainly Australian batsmen that never get dropped. You know, you go through that period. Generally, it's when you're young, but I think it takes courage under pressure to back your self-belief, but your preparation.
Do you think this team has enough grunt? Because think about if there are a bunch of players that haven't been dropped. Maybe we don't have the batting personnel behind them. I think if this was in your era, you're probably not getting as many chances. Do you think they've got enough oomph behind them?
You know what? I like the faith that the selectors have kept in players.
Sticking fat, yeah.
I'm a big one for that. If in doubt, pick and stick. Certainly players that have earned the right, have scored runs under pressure, have helped the team win games of cricket. I think your repayment of faith and the thank you is to give them an extra chance, give them a little bit longer. So I like that. And I think Marnus is one of those players right now. If I'm watching him bat, if he can, like I say, if he can have the courage to back himself and relax his mind, I think he's one score away from doing exactly what Steve Smith's doing. If he can get 100, I think he'll score another 100, a double 100. I just think runs will continue. He's just got to get that one score. But, yeah, all players are the same as well in regards to there comes a time if you're not making runs, then, you know, Josh Inglis gets a go and makes 100. So if you're not performing, there's guys sitting in the change room stirring drinks that want to be out there batting, bowling, fielding. So I'm sure Marnus will feel that, but I still think he's got a lot of runs left in him. I think he's a very good player.
And before we get into if you think any changes will be in this side, they're playing the same stadiums, maybe the same pitch, don't know what they're going to prepare there. How will it change differently? What sort of way will you approach this match differently as an Australian? Probably no different as an Australian. What about Sri Lankan?
I don't think Australia makes any changes at all. I think they go in same 11, same attitude. Sri Lanka's a tough one because Sri Lanka didn't play our spinners well at all. Generally, when you go to the subcontinent, you think against Australia, make spinning wickets because Australia struggle most against spin. But Australia played spin better than Sri Lanka played spin. So I really don't know which way they go. If anything, you could take a gamble and play on the same pitch, don't pick a fast bowler at all, and only play spin. It looks to me like they were preparing the pitch beside it though, but they can't prepare the same sort of wicket because if Australia win the toss, I think it'll be the same result.
Yeah.
Their fielding let them down as well, Sri Lanka. You can't afford to drop good players. Reviews, they missed the early review to Travis Head, which is a big decision. But like I say, I feel like as soon as they lost the toss,
they lost in their mind.
I think they thought,
and you can't go into a game winning and losing a match from the toss.
Yeah, and even if your attitude's right, of course, you know it's very hard if a team makes 500 in the first innings. It's hard, but it's their conditions. They've had success there. If they're ever going to be confident against this Australian team, it's in Gaul where they've had success on a pitch that even though it's spun, it was slow spin. They're generally good players at spin bowling. So, yeah, they have their work cut out. I would imagine they will make some sort of change in regards to the 11 players that take the field. But if anything, I'd be going more spin heavy and backing their spinners to bowl Australia out. I think that's the only way for them to try and beat Australia.
Now, I'll tell you who had a tough little last bit. That was England.
Wow.
We talk about being poor in the field. That was England. We talk about losing a match before you start, probably England.
Yeah, wow.
That was a really, really tough tour. And you know what it's like being on a losing end of a tour. That's a long way home. It's a long flight. It's a long time to sit there with your thoughts. And Heather Knight, the captain, will be having to take a lot on that self. And I want to know from you as a captain, a 16-0 loss, essentially a 5-0 in comparison to the men. How much of that do you take on as a captain?
Yeah, as a captain, you take it personally. There's no doubt about it. So it probably hits you harder than the other players. It's a big loss for England. The Aussie girls, again, they deserve all the praise they deserve, but England were very poor. They had games in front of them. It was harder to lose than win in the shorter formats.
Yeah.
By the time the Test match come around, if England had won that Test match, I would have been so surprised.
Totally.
I just think Australia dominated that series from ball one. England missed opportunities. And then just some of the comments that were made around the England squad surprised me as well. I think...
Excuses.
Well, they would say reasons, but to me, generally, you're better off saying nothing because if it comes across the wrong way or if I hear that as a player and my coach or support staff or chairman of selectors says something that's got any sort of negative take or any form of excuse around it, that's the last thing I'm looking for. And the media all around the world pick up on that as well. So,
well, John Lewis has been highlighted on those comments from Bondi to Coogee. Well, that's a nice place. That's nice for people if they live on Bondi to Coogee.
I don't think it's realistic as well. Like these days with sport, your lifestyle or having sun or no sun makes no difference. You can train indoors, you can train outdoors. So I think Australia outplayed England in every single facet of the game. I think Australia deserve credit. But England go home. And if that was Australia, there'd be a review straight away.
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
You'd be looking at
what's
reasons.
On the other side of that?
I think it is. I think, there's certainly, there will be conversations around coach and support staff. And I think there'll be conversations around the squad that went. Did we take the right squad? Have we got the right players? Do we look to the future? How do we beat Australia next time? How do we start again? All of that happens when you lose. So I can't imagine this England team and setup would be spared anything. The ECB will be looking at what happened, preparation, fitness, leadership, support staff, individual players. And if they feel like there's gaps, then you would I couldn't imagine nobody getting sacked. Put it that way.
It's really sad to look at this, right? Because I want to be growing women's cricket, women's sports all the time. And when you have blowouts like that, it's not a good it's not a good reason then to be watching the game. Why would we want to watch that when it's a big flogging? So I look and I get really disappointed for a country that has as much money as England cricket does, with the amount of investment they're putting into their women's sports, to then not be anywhere near a sport of comparable investment. So it's really disappointing as a women's sports fan to see a country like this go down without even swinging. If we're playing Bangladesh, where they don't have anywhere near as much investment, sure, you're expecting this. But England, I'm not expecting this, and it's disappointing.
Well, I'd be surprised if the ECB see it any differently.
Yeah.
I think they'd be saying the same. We're investing into our women's team like we are the men's, and we have high expectation. So to me, it doesn't matter male or female. If you're not performing, there's consequences. Yeah. You're playing sport at the highest level. There's an expectation on how you perform. There's an expectation around winning. And, you know, I lost a number of games as well. And you never want to lose, but unfortunately, that's what happens in the business. People come and go and the team needs to move on. So I'd imagine this England team would be no different.
And you have to field questions when you do lose. Now, 100%. One question without notice. And Annabel Sutherland, the first woman to get a century at the MCG. Beth Mooney quickly followed suit. Yeah. And they now have their name etched on the board where all of you guys have their names on. And there's a lot of people online going, they should have their own boards. Why would they be there with the men? You've got no problem as a man with your name on boards like that to have
Put
women
my name
there.
right beside those two. They are two superstars. Beth Mooney, I think she's the first Australian woman to score 100 in all three formats. Yep. Annabel Sutherland is a superstar already.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if she's not the next Australian captain, she will be the one after.
And she's an exact example of where if you invest when they're kids, how they can get to. Her brother's a great player. She's a great player. The family, exactly. And you can see directly the investment of boys and girls. Oh, cool. They can both get there.
Yeah, so, I don't, no way. I don't take any offence to that. I think really if the women want their own board, give them their own board. If they're happy to sit alongside, to me, it makes no difference. You make 100 or take 5 wickets at Lords, MCG, SC, whatever ground it is, that's so special. There should definitely be recognition for that. Yep. And to me, if they want it together, do it together. If they want individual, give them individual.
Well, when we grew up idolising Michael Clark or Ricky Ponting, I think for them to have their name next to them would be amazing. And now we've got little girls who can look up to Beth Mooney and Annabel Sutherland and hopefully have their name next to them as well. And now cricket's not just international cricket, it's the IPL as well. There's always something going on. Well, this isn't IPL. IPL is coming up, but this
IPL's
is Indian.
Just around the corner.
But the Indian T20 match against England. Yeah, it's always interesting when England are coming out. Well, another excuse.
That's been an interesting series as well. Like we just spoke about the England women's team here and a few excuses being made, and India has outplayed England in this T20 series, but England have missed opportunities. You know, this is not India's full strength team. And England have been dusted by them. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about the substitute rule around players getting replaced.
With concussion.
And them not being like for like, which I completely understand that. But I don't think that's been the reason England have been beaten. I think they need to look, I think their short form cricket. England's has taken a big fall. I really do. I think it was something they focused on under Trevor Bayliss when he was coach of that England team. And their short form cricket went through the roof. They were playing brilliant. A lot of the best players in the IPL were coming from England.
Is this when they won
the World Cup? Yes. And now for some reason, they're just, I don't know, they're not playing anywhere near. It's a different brand. They're playing a different brand of one day and T20 cricket now, which really surprises me.
What part of the playing are you disappointed in most? Bowling or batting or combination, fielding?
I don't think that they're talented. This England squad, doesn't matter what format, they have very talented players. The other night when I watched the game, I was super surprised. Like, the game was harder to lose than win. Their execution under pressure is surprising me. And again, my brain's thinking about the Ashes next summer, England coming to Australia, and that's the most important time of a test match. When you're under maximum pressure, what decision do you make and how do you execute that decision? And I feel like in the shortest format, yes, everything moves faster, but that's what you want as a player on the biggest stage. You want to be in that moment under pressure. You want to be the one to get your team over the line, hit the winning runs, or find a way to get that victory, or you want the ball in your hand to bowl that last over. At the moment, I feel like they've got some talented players, but they're missing that in that moment, their execution. They're getting out when they need to knock it out. They're bowling that low full toss when they need to be bowling that slow ball. They're good enough, but they're just not executing.
Not valuing
the
ball.
Like I say, this isn't India's number one T20 team by a long way, and they've outplayed them.
And you feel as though they're latching on to, it's not a like-for-like player, as opposed to actually looking internally. I think
I can understand their conversation around not having a like-to-like player for the concussion sub. I can understand that, and I thought that was the rule as well. It needed to be like-to-like, but I don't think that's why they've lost the series. Not at all. I think there's many other things they should be focusing on, even in preparation for the Champions Trophy. I think their one-day outfit is strong, but at the moment, they got a lot of things they need to improve if they want to be in that final of the Champions Trophy. That's in the one-day format. But T20 one-day, it's, a lot of players are crossing those two formats. So you want to go to the Champions Trophy in form, confident, and you want to know how we play our white ball cricket.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, result for the second test, Australia and Sri Lanka.
I can't see Australia losing. Honestly, I think they're just so confident at the moment. I think Australia wins again. And
Uzi with the most runs, or you think Steve Smith will keep going? Or another roughie? Heady?
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna gamble. I'm gonna say Marnus. I'm gonna say Marnus is gonna make a big 150 plus for Marnus Labuschagne.
He's due.
Yeah,
he's due. Yep. And what about lastly wickets? Most wickets.
I'll say Nathan Lyon. Kuhnemann was brilliant. Left arm, spin away, but I'm going to go Lino this second test match. I think Nathan Lyon will be Australia's leading wicket taker.
Player of the match.
It'll have to be Nathan Lyon because I reckon Lino might get 11 wickets for the match.
He's airing very close to going over Glenn McGrath's wickets.
Nathan Lyon's record is phenomenal. And he's the one, Lino's 37. My brain still thinks he's 33 or 34. I know he looks 45, and I love Lino, but I don't know. And maybe it's because, I'm not saying bowling spin is not as physical as, batting.
Not as physical as fast bowling.
It's not, no, but nothing is.
No.
I reckon that's the toughest challenge physically as a cricketer, is to be a fast bowler, especially when you're playing in conditions like that. But I just think Lino, I don't see the end near for Lino. I think he could be one of those players to play until he's 40.
And I think he manages himself well. I think he
knows his role. He's quite lean. He works hard on his fitness. And the other, the most important thing when you get to that sort of age, the want to keep going, the want to get out of bed, the want to do your rehab, your recovery, sit in a team meeting, go to training. I still feel like Nathan Lyon's one of the few players at that age that wants and thinks he can get better.
I didn't want to do that when I was playing sport, let alone
didn't want to do it at 21.
God.
What a week it's been, though. It doesn't stop. There's cricket all around the world. We mentioned briefly, we've got Champions Trophy not too far away after this second test match. There's a lot of guys as well, one-day players around the world, starting to prep and think about that as well. Another test match for the Aussie men. We're done here in Australia. No more cricket in Australia for our summer. We go into footy season, but from our point of view, we'll continue to follow the cricket all around the world. I can't wait for Champions Trophy, and I'm looking forward to this IPL. It's going to be unbelievable. So, stay with us. Keep following us. We really appreciate your support. As we said, so much cricket to come. Go the Aussies in this second test against Sri Lanka.